So about 2 weeks ago, my smartphone broke. And I've been kicking around the idea recently of replacing it with a dumb phone, of just getting rid of all that smart functionality, all of the apps, your Facebook, your YouTube, your Chrome, really anything other than just having a telephone. A friend of mine had also recently told me about something called the Light Phone, which is a sort of Kindle screen-based dumb phone that can text and has some maps navigations, but is basically just a telephone. And then I learned about the Wisephone right as my old smartphone, my Google Pixel 2, broke. So I recently got this in the mail. It's a Wisephone. It looks like a smartphone. You don't look like a dork using it, but it doesn't have any of that smartphone functionality. It doesn't have all the social media apps. It doesn't have endless emails and that sort of thing. I'm not a tech guy. I don't really know how to tell you about all the mechanics or specifications of this, but I'd like to take a couple of minutes and show you its basic functions and give you an idea of whether or not it's worth buying. And then after that, let's take another couple of minutes and let's meditate on the use of technology in our world and as a species. Come on. Alright, so let's take an actual look at the Wisephone. The Wisephone is built on a Motorola Model E, a Moto E, so its physical specifications are just whatever Motorola put in the box. So when Wisephone advertises that it has insane battery life, that's because of the decreased power usage due to the lack of apps or things like scrolling that smartphones incentivize. So the Wisephone operating system is designed by the corporation Techless, which is where you can order one of these. And it's really the operating system that's unique on this phone. Everything else, the physical functionality, the camera, all of that comes from the Motorola platform. Alright, so we begin here. Get that screen backlit up. Begin here just by swiping up. And that's it. That's your whole home screen. You have a clock, calculator, maps, camera, your settings functions, phone, and messages. So let's just go through these one by one. Let's go into clock, where you have the basic time setting function. You can also add a city down at the bottom if you're in a different time zone or want to communicate regularly with people in another time zone. Swipe over to the alarm function. My alarm is currently set for 6 a.m. on Monday morning. So I can change that to 7 or back. It's just a typical scrolling function. I want to make sure that that is set to on for tomorrow. There's a stopwatch. And there is a timer. Once again, there's a typical scroll function there. Let's go back. There's a calculator, which is self-explanatory. There is a maps function on here. Now this is an advantage over some other dumb phones where it plugs into, I believe, TomTom. Again, I'm not a tech guy. But it doesn't have all the searching functionality that Google has because this phone attempts to use zero Google technology so that your data remains private and there's no cache and delivery to their metadata systems. But yeah, you can plug in a specific address that you're looking for and get real-time navigation. Then there's the camera, which is currently in beta, but it seems to work just fine. I believe you can only save up to 6 pictures on the phone, but you can text out as many as you'd like. The settings over here, typical things, restrictions, since this phone is specifically designed not only for tech minimalists, but also for parents. There is sort of display, and that's just very typical screen brightness kind of things. There is sound. Now, I gotta tell you, this is the most annoying part of this phone. This is the one thing I really seriously dislike, is that the ringtones they give you are all those horrible ringtones that you get on a variety of, smartphones that you'll be sitting in an airport or you'll be sitting in, oh, God forbid, I'll be teaching class, and all of a sudden, you'll hear, or this nonsense, if I had one request from Techless is that they would, in their next update, add just a phone sound or just an alarm sound. All right, that's still settings. And then here we are back to the main screen. Down in phone, you can import your contacts from Google or Apple, I believe. So here are my contacts. You can star some contacts up here, add contacts up there. They're all my contacts. It gives you all your recent recent dials. It tells you whether they were outgoing or missed or incoming, and you actually picked up. And then messages, which works just like other messages. They provide 2 keyboards. So let's go into this. I got an update from Holy Hierarchs. So you can use the Google keyboard, which is just what you're used to from a Google keyboard. It has the comma and the periods right there. Everything's where you're used to it. It comes up with auto-suggest, that sort of thing. Although it does not have voice to text. I don't know if that's coming. I have no idea. But that's part of its functionality. Or you can switch to the Techless keyboard, which is good for just one-word replies. It's stylish. It fits the aesthetic. But the period and the question mark all seem to be in a kind of odd place for someone who's coming from a Google Pixel 2, as I am. So, that's the messaging function. And that's it. That's the whole phone. So, minor quibbles and disclaimers aside, I'm a huge fan of the Wisephone. I use it, but I don't use it like I would a smartphone. I've been more productive over the last 2 weeks, 1 week of not having a phone at all, and this week of not having a smartphone, than I have been in probably months. And more importantly, I've been spending more time reading. I've been spending more time with great ideas, calling friends and actually talking to them, and with my wife and my newborn son. That's right, I have a new son, Benedict Thomas. And I thought that in addition to being good for my own spiritual and personal growth, it would be good for me as a father to not have the internet at my fingertips. Now, for whatever reason that is, I think a lot of us should consider ditching their smartphone as I have. Whether it's because you waste time on Facebook or because Facebook and other social media give you dopamine highs, or whether it's because you want to restrict access to pornography for yourself or for a child that you want to have a phone. I think not just this, but technologies like the Wisephone are a really smart choice for families and for individuals who want to be intentional in living incarnate lives. Because that's what we are. We are incarnate creatures. We are a hylomorphic union of body and soul. That is, we're not a soul that sort of just happens to be in a body but might as well not be. We are bodies. We are animals that have a rational soul. We are animals that have a pattern of life that points us toward the divine, but we're nothing less than our bodies, even as we are something more than our bodies. And our modern technological worldview, it kind of incentivizes forgetting that. It wants us to lead virtual lives that really are, in a way, subhuman. They're not the kind of lives that we're supposed to have. Now, this leads into a larger meditation on technology. Technology which is a good thing, right? It's part of human nature to develop technology. But human nature, as any Christian can tell you, or as C.S. Lewis said, this is the one empirically verifiable Christian doctrine, human nature has a destructive, a self-destructive, and an other-destructive tendency within it. We tend toward the disorder, the nothingness, the abyss. We tend to use what few goods we have in negative ways. So, imagine, if you will, humanity in a pure state of nature. That is, a state of nature absent what the Christian tradition calls original sin. In this pure state of nature, humanity would have all the faculties it has now, right? We have reason, we have will, and we certainly have passions and desires or affect. We would have all those things, and all of them are good, each and every one of them. But in a pure state of nature, our reason would subordinate our will. That is, we would desire that which is, or we would seek out that which is noble as good, true, and beautiful by reason. And then our will would subordinate our passions. That is, our passions would still seek out what is good. They would seek out food. They would seek out sexual gratification. They would seek out rest when the body needed it. But they would do so in proportion to other goods, as informed by reason. The way the Christian theological tradition, especially the Catholic theological tradition, talks about the fall is about disordering these initial faculties, right? And so our reason is now subject to our will, and our will is subject to our passions, and our passions seek out baser things. They seek out food and sex all out of proportion, right? And we're left as this jumbled, disordered self that is oriented toward goods, yes, but always lesser goods, right? We don't seek pure evil, but we seek that parasitic lesser evil that is parasitic upon the good. And as a result, we're in a chaotic environment. We have chaotic selves internally and in society externally. As a result, we seek out security. And one of the ways we seek out security is through technology. Technology is in some ways a substitute for that original grace that was lost in the original sin, which now imparts to us our original sin. Technology is a substitute for that primordial security that we once had. That doesn't mean technology is wholly evil, though. There are many things that are the result of the fall, in terms of being the historical consequence of the fall, that would have been goods that we would have sought out either way. For instance, there are, in the biblical imagining, there are no other human beings besides Adam and Eve until the fall. It's only after the fall that the primordial couple has Cain and Abel and Seth. And yet, prior to the fall, there's the commandment to be fruitful and multiply. There's a potency within creation. It's not complete in and of itself. Humanity is given this wholly good potential, but then it is asked to perfect it. And that's not just true with the number of humans that we need to fill out a garden to make into a city. That's true of actually making the city of God itself. Think about the Genesis account. Humanity is created on the sixth day as Lord of creation, directly Lord of the animals and land, but also by way of being Lord of the birds and the fish, the sky and the sea. And we as sixth day creatures are called to usher creation into the worship of God in communion with Him on the seventh day, on the holy day, the Sabbath. So too, in the subsequent creation account in Genesis 2, there is the information that the Garden of Eden is planted near precious metals. Well, what are those precious metals for? They're for building a city. They're for building a temple, or the temple city that we see in Ezekiel or in Revelation. And so humanity is called upon to enrich and perfect nature using our reason and the skills available to reason. And so by reason, we can learn things about the natural world, we can learn things about the sciences, and then we can apply those using technology. So technology is, at its root, good. It is a human work that is meant to fulfill God's commands in creation. However, most technology also has a downside. It has not only this way of turning us into, distorting ourselves. So there's a lot of discussion right now about the psychological effects of social media and sort of on-demand dopamine. But there's also the potential for domination, right? That's what technology is for. It's meant to keep and till the garden. It's meant to dominate nature in such a way as to bring out its natural potential. And so one can think of a good use of this. Say, let's take corn, that is North American maize. With corn, you can grind it up and turn it into cornbread, and now it's not terribly nutritious, and it's not, not a fully balanced diet, but it does raise society over a subsistence level. Okay, moving society away from starvation and subsistence to, sort of steady food production, that's a good, and the Neolithic Revolution involves that good. But what else does the Neolithic Revolution involve? Well, it also involves the rise of massive forms of state-controlled organization and slave labor in order to direct and control the agricultural production. And so in order to accomplish the things that we would have before the fall accomplished in harmony with God and other human beings and all of nature, we now accomplish through the domination of our fellow man and the creation of systems of domination that are still with us to the current day, right? The majority of regimes in the world, probably every regime in the world, has this what Augustine called the libido dominandi, the will to dominate, the desire to dominate at its essence. So we have this technology not only of grinding maize into meal, which is then baked into bread in ovens, but we also have the technology of the state. Same example, let's take corn again. You can make it into cornbread, which is not terribly nutritious, but it is certainly going to keep you going. Or you can turn it into high-value commodities like high fructose corn syrup, which has wholly negative consequences. It is on not just a net loss, it's a gross loss for humanity that we have sugary soft drinks that are cheap because the state subsidizes them, right? It subsidizes corn production so that cheap corn can then be turned into high fructose corn syrup in order to contribute to the obesity epidemic that is the United States and Mexico. So there is this tendency to take creation's natural potency and distort it in a way that kind of mirrors the distortion within ourselves. And one could go on with dozens of examples. So for instance, everything we do in the natural world that causes ecological devastation is a net loss when it comes to the application of technology. So technology is in and of itself good, but like so many human works, hear that term, works, our good works are only good in as much as they are organized around the highest good, the true, and the beautiful, the transcendent God. And when they're organized in that fashion, they can help lift us and direct us toward God. They can help lift and direct others toward God in a way that fulfills not only the natural potency within nature, but the natural potency within human nature. Smartphones are one of these technologies. The internet is one of these technologies, and it's one of these technologies that is on the whole seems to be a net loss. The internet can do extraordinary things. There are good things that can be done with smartphones, but as far as I can tell, as a not entirely disimpassioned observer, smartphones and the internet seem to be a net loss. They seem to incentivize polarization. Social media particularly does this. Smartphones, while they're meant to connect, they actually seem to isolate so that people can be in the same room and they can just sort of fall into their phones, like falling into a black hole. And the internet allows for the dissemination of ideas that are, frankly, dangerous. One thinks of the innovative use of the internet by radical terrorist organizations or something like that. So while these technologies couldn't be amenable to reform, they're in some ways like the atom bomb, where you can think of very few actual uses for the atom bomb that would be a net gain for humanity. Maybe it's, there's all kinds of arguments about the atom bomb, but actually in a way smartphones are worse Because at least with nuclear technology, we have nuclear power plants that might help us avert, things like ecological devastation and climate change. Whereas with smartphones, I have a hard time thinking of how a full-on, full-platform iPhone or Samsung Galaxy or something like that actually benefits the self or humanity as a whole. Whereas if you have a more limited technology, if you have a more directed and intentional and mindful use, and I understand the irony of putting all this on YouTube and trying to use a camera, if you have that limited use, there may be a way to help orient it toward the good, the true, and the beautiful. And I'm hoping that that's what I'm going to be able to pursue in my life with my son and my wife going forward.